Here's the ultrasound. Everything looks perfectly normal.
Oh, that's wonderful news. Thank you.
Of course.
The doctor looked at Vivian's ultrasound screen for a long moment. Then he turned to Marcus, her billionaire fiancé, and said the words that would destroy everything. There are serious concerns here, Marcus. Genetic markers that suggest hereditary conditions. Anomalies that indicate potential incompatibilities with you as the father. I've seen this before. My professional advice? You shouldn't marry this woman. Vivian felt the room spin around her. What are you talking about? These are our babies. Marcus, you know I've never been with anyone else. But Marcus wasn't looking at her anymore. He was staring at the doctor with horror spreading across his face like a disease. Are you saying these children might not be mine? I'm saying the possibility cannot be ruled out. And even if they are, the hereditary condition I'm detecting could mean a lifetime of medical complications, developmental challenges, astronomical expenses, the Aldridge name associated with imperfection. Marcus, please, this doesn't make sense. We can get a second opinion. We can do proper testing. I think we need to postpone the wedding until we have answers. Postpone? You're going to abandon me and our unborn children because of one doctor's opinion? Marcus straightened his jacket and walked toward the door. He didn't look back. He didn't kiss her forehead. He didn't promise to figure this out together. I need time to process this. And then he was gone. Just like that. 18 months of love evaporated in less than 10 minutes. But here's what Vivian didn't know yet. This wasn't a medical opinion. This was a carefully orchestrated conspiracy designed to remove her from a billionaire's life and replace her with someone else, the doctor's own daughter. And here's what her enemies never anticipated. The woman they tried to destroy would rise from those ashes and build an empire that would put them all to shame. 8 years later, when the truth finally came out, the man who threw her away would learn the most devastating lesson of his life. This story is about betrayal at its ugliest, revenge at its sweetest, and redemption that will leave you breathless. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or thrown away by someone who should have valued you, this story was made for you. Hit that like button right now if you're ready for one of the most powerful stories we've ever told on this channel. Trust me, you're going to want to see this through to the very end. Now let me take you back to the beginning. To the woman, Vivian was before the world tried to break her. Vivian Castellan grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of the city, where the walls were thin enough to hear the neighbors arguing and the radiator only worked when it felt like it. Her mother, Rosa, worked double shifts at the hospital, leaving before sunrise and returning after Vivian was already asleep. The notes she left on the kitchen counter became their primary form of communication. Leftover pasta in the fridge. Don't forget your permission slip. I love you more than anything in this world. Those notes taught Vivian something that would define her entire life. Love wasn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. Love was about showing up, even when you were exhausted. Love was about leaving notes because you couldn't be there in person. Love was about sacrifice that nobody asked you to make, but you made anyway, because that's what love does. Rosa died of a heart attack when Vivian was 23. One minute she was alive, working her shift, doing what she'd always done. The next minute she was gone, and Vivian was standing in a hospital hallway trying to understand how the world kept spinning when hers had just stopped completely. She buried her mother with money she'd saved for graduate school. She moved into a smaller apartment because she couldn't afford the old one alone. She took a job at a cafe near the financial district because it paid slightly better than the other options. And she kept going because that's what Rosa had taught her to do. You keep going. You don't stop. You find a way forward even when every direction looks like a dead end. The cafe was called Morning Light, and it sat on the corner of Madison and 52nd, directly across from the glass tower that housed Aldridge Enterprises. Every morning, men and women in expensive suits poured out of that building for their caffeine fix, barely glancing at the person who handed them their drinks. Vivian learned to be invisible to them, which suited her fine. She was working toward her architecture degree at night, dreaming about sustainable design and affordable housing, and these suited people were simply a means to an end. Then one afternoon in October, the rain came down like the sky was angry at the earth. Thunder rattled the cafe windows. Lightning turned the dark afternoon into strobing. Chaos. And a man walked through the door, looking like he'd just been thrown into a swimming pool fully clothed. He stood in the entrance, water streaming from his hair, his suit plastered to his body, and he looked so completely helpless that Vivian did something she never did. She stepped out from behind the counter with a clean towel from the back. "Here, you look like you need this more than our coffee." The man looked at her with surprise, like he couldn't quite process that a stranger was offering him basic kindness without expecting anything in return. "Thank you. I was supposed to have an umbrella. My assistant usually handles that." "Usually handles your umbrella?" "Among other things. Must be nice, having someone to handle your umbrella." He laughed, and the sound was genuine in a way that surprised her. Most of the suits who came through here had practiced laughs, performed emotions, calculated responses. This one seemed caught off guard by his own amusement. "I'm Marcus." "Vivian, and you're dripping on our floor." She handed him a mop next, which made him laugh again, and by the time the storm passed, he'd learned about her architecture dreams and she'd learned about his family's company, though not the full scale of it. When she finally looked him up that night, after her shift ended, she discovered that Marcus Aldridge was worth approximately $500 million and was regularly featured in magazines as one of the city's most eligible bachelors. The next day, he came back. This time without the rain. This time with purpose in his eyes. "I realized I never actually bought any coffee yesterday. The towel and the mop were complimentary. Coffee will cost you." He ordered the most expensive thing on the menu and left a $100 tip, which Vivian immediately split with her coworkers despite his protests. "I didn't give that to them. You gave it to the cafe. The cafe includes all of us. That's how this works. You really don't care that I'm worth $500 million, do you? Should the first? Does it make your coffee taste better?" Marcus Aldridge had spent his entire life surrounded by people who calculated his value in dollar signs. People who smiled because they wanted something. People who agreed with him because disagreement might cost them access to his world. And here was this woman with tired eyes and calloused hands and dreams that had nothing to do with his money, treating him like he was just another person who needed a towel in a rainstorm. He came back every day for 3 weeks before he asked her to dinner. She said no the first time, and the second, and the third. "I don't date customers. What if I stop being a customer? Then you'd have to find somewhere else to get your coffee. What if I just want to talk to you? Without the counter between us? Without you having to serve me?" Vivian studied his face for a long moment, looking for the calculation she'd learned to expect from his kind. She didn't find it. What she found instead was something that looked remarkably like genuine hope. One dinner. "But I choose the place." She took him to a tiny restaurant in her old neighborhood, where the tables were plastic and the menu was handwritten and the owner had known her mother. Marcus sat across from her in his $1,000 suit and ate rice and beans with the same enthusiasm he probably reserved for 5-star establishments. "This is the best food I've ever had. Don't lie. I'm not lying. When was the last time I ate somewhere that wasn't trying to impress investors or please board members? When was the last time the person across from me wasn't calculating what I could do for them? This is the first time in years that I've felt like a normal person having a normal dinner with someone who genuinely doesn't care about my net worth. I care a little bit. Oh, it means you can afford to leave a big tip. Maria could use the help. Her husband's been sick. Marcus left enough to cover Maria's rent for 3 months. Not because Vivian asked him to, but because it was the right thing to do. And in that moment, she began to see something beyond the billion-dollar exterior. She began to see a man who had been taught that money was a weapon, struggling to learn that it could also be a tool for kindness. Their courtship was nothing like the tabloid romances that featured other billionaires. There were no yacht trips or private islands or paparazzi following them to exclusive events. Marcus seemed to understand that Vivian needed something different, something real, something that proved he saw her as more than an accessory to his lifestyle. They walked through parks and talked about architecture. She showed him her sketches for sustainable housing projects, and he listened like her dreams were the most interesting thing he'd ever heard. He told her about the pressure of the Aldridge legacy, about his father's expectations, about feeling like his entire life had been mapped out before he was born with no room for deviation. "Sometimes I feel like I'm just playing a role. CEO Marcus, Aldridge heir Marcus, philanthropist Marcus. I don't even know who I am when nobody's watching." "Who do you want to be?" "Someone who matters for more than my family's money. Someone who builds something meaningful. Someone who makes a difference that doesn't disappear when the checkbook closes. That's who I see when you're not performing for the cameras or the board meetings. That's who I see sitting in front of me right now." Marcus looked at her like she'd just given him something precious, something he'd been searching for without knowing what it was. And when he said "I love you" 3 months later, standing in the rain outside her apartment, because the weather seemed to keep bringing them together, Vivian believed him with her whole heart. She moved into his penthouse after 6 months, despite the quiet voice in her head warning her that she didn't belong in his world. The closets were bigger than her old apartment. The kitchen had appliances she didn't know how to use. The view from the bedroom window made the entire city look like a toy someone had carefully arranged for their amusement. Her best friend Petra came to visit and walked through the rooms with wide eyes and a worried expression. "Viv, this is insane. You know that, right? This is completely insane." "I know. These people eat people like us for breakfast. They chew us up and spit us out when we stop being useful. I've seen it happen. My cousin dated a rich guy for 2 years, and when he was done with her, she didn't even get a goodbye. Just a lawyer with a non-disclosure agreement. Marcus isn't like that. They're all like that. The money changes them. Or maybe they were always this way and the money just gives them permission." Vivian wanted to argue, but part of her wondered if Petra was right. The other people in Marcus's world looked at her with barely concealed disdain. The wives of his colleagues smiled with their mouths and judged with their eyes. The society events she attended made her feel like a fraud wearing borrowed clothes, trying to speak a language she'd never been taught. But Marcus kept choosing her. That's what she held on to when the doubts crept in. He kept showing up, kept listening, kept loving her in ways that felt real even when the world around them felt artificial. The proposal happened in Paris, which was the one concession to his world she allowed. They were standing on a small bridge at sunset, the Eiffel Tower glittering in the distance, and Marcus got down on one knee with a ring that she immediately knew cost more than her mother's entire lifetime of earnings. "I don't need diamonds. You know that." "I know, but I wanted you to have something that matches how rare you are, something that shows the world how much you mean to me. The world doesn't need to know, only we need to know. Then let this be a promise between us, that I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you." She said yes, not because of the ring or the Paris backdrop or the grand gesture, but because of the look in his eyes, the vulnerability that broke through his polished exterior, the genuine fear that she might say no. They planned a modest wedding, which caused immediate friction with his family. The Aldridges expected announcements in major publications, guest lists that read like a directory of power and influence, a spectacle that reinforced their position in society. Vivian wanted something intimate, something meaningful, something that was about them rather than their performance. Marcus sided with her, which earned them both the silent disapproval of his parents and the barely hidden contempt of their social circle. At one of the engagement parties his mother insisted on throwing, Vivian found herself cornered by a woman with perfect bone structure and cold, calculating eyes. The woman introduced herself as Celeste Crane, daughter of Dr. Lawrence Crane, the Aldridge family's personal physician for 30 years. "So, you're the one who finally captured Marcus. We've all been wondering what was so special about you." "I'm not sure I'm special at all. I just love him. Love. How charming. And naive. You know his family expected him to marry someone from his own world, don't you? Someone who understands how things work. Someone who won't embarrass him at the important events." "I'll try my best not to embarrass anyone. I'm sure you will. But trying and succeeding are very different things." Celeste smiled like a predator who had spotted vulnerable prey, and Vivian felt a chill run through her that she couldn't explain. There was something in that smile, something that suggested this woman wasn't just making casual conversation. She was making a threat. But Vivian pushed the feeling aside. She was happy. She was in love. She was about to marry a man who made her believe in fairy tales. She couldn't let jealousy from a woman who'd clearly wanted Marcus for herself ruin what they were building together. Looking back, she would recognize that moment as the first warning sign she ignored. The first indication that wolves were circling at the edges, waiting for their moment to strike. 18 months passed in something close to bliss. Vivian continued working on her architecture degree, continued dreaming about sustainable design, continued building a life that balanced her identity with her new circumstances. Marcus continued showing up, continued choosing her, continued proving that the love he'd promised was more than just words. Then, her period was late. She noticed on a Tuesday morning, standing in the bathroom of their penthouse, staring at the calendar on her phone with a mixture of fear and hope swirling through her chest. She was 26 years old, engaged to be married, building a future with a man she loved. A baby wouldn't be a disaster. A baby might actually be wonderful. But she wanted to be sure before she said anything. She wanted confirmation, medical certainty, the knowledge that she could present this news as a gift rather than a question. The home pregnancy test came back positive. 2 pink lines that changed everything. Vivian sat on the edge of the bathtub and stared at those lines until they blurred through her tears, overwhelmed by joy so intense it felt like pain. She made an appointment with a doctor for 3 weeks later, wanting to wait until she was far enough along for a proper ultrasound. She wanted to show Marcus their baby on a screen. She wanted to capture his reaction, to see his face transform with the same wonder she was feeling. For 3 weeks, she carried the secret like a treasure. She placed her hand on her stomach when he wasn't looking and whispered promises to the life growing inside her. She imagined a nursery in one of the empty rooms, painted in soft colors with furniture she'd pick out herself rather than hiring a designer. She pictured Marcus holding their child, teaching them to walk, reading them bedtime stories. She practiced what she would say. "We're having a baby. Our family is growing. You're going to be a father." None of the words felt adequate for the magnitude of what she was about to share. Marcus noticed something different about her. "You seem lighter lately, like something good happened that you're not telling me about. Maybe something good did happen. Are you going to share with the class?" "Soon. I promise. Very soon." The morning of the hospital appointment, Vivian woke up before dawn and watched Marcus sleep beside her. His face was peaceful in a way it rarely was during waking hours, when the weight of his responsibilities pressed constantly against his features. She loved him in that moment with a ferocity that frightened her. She loved him and their unborn baby and the future they were building together. If only she had known what was waiting for her at that hospital. If only she had understood that in keeping this beautiful secret, she was walking into a trap that had been set long before she ever met Marcus Aldridge. The hospital was one of those places that catered exclusively to people who could afford excellence. Private rooms with actual furniture instead of sterile equipment. Doctors who were as much personal advisors as medical professionals. The kind of atmosphere that whispered, "You matter, you're special, you're worthy of this attention in every carefully designed detail." Dr. Lawrence Crane was waiting for them in the examination room. He had silver hair swept back from a face that projected professional warmth, the kind of doctor who probably had a reassuring bedside manner honed over decades of practice. But there was something in his eyes that Vivian couldn't quite read, something that flickered behind the practiced smile like a shadow just out of focus. Marcus had insisted on Dr. Crane handling everything personally. He'd been the Aldridge family physician for 30 years, had treated Marcus since childhood, had earned a level of trust that Marcus extended to very few people. "So this is the famous Vivian. I've heard so much about you from Marcus. Good things, I hope. The best things. Marcus seems quite taken with you." The examination room felt colder than it should have. Vivian sat on the table in her paper gown, feeling vulnerable and exposed while Marcus stood by the window scrolling through emails on his phone. She wanted to tell him to put the phone away, to be present for this moment, but she reminded herself that they'd have time to be present together once the baby appeared on the screen. "Let's see what we have here." Dr. Crane prepared the ultrasound equipment with practiced efficiency. The cold gel made Vivian gasp, and then the screen flickered to life, and then everything else in the world stopped existing. 2 heartbeats. Not one, but 2. 2 distinct flickering lights pulsing in synchronized rhythm, like stars being born in the darkness of her body. Twins. She was carrying twins. Well, Dr. Crane's voice seemed to come from very far away. "This is certainly interesting." Marcus finally looked up from his phone, finally became present in the moment that was about to shatter both of their lives. 2? There are 2? Vivian couldn't speak. She was too overwhelmed by joy, too awed by the miracle on the screen, too lost in the wonder of 2 lives growing inside her where she'd expected one. For exactly 37 seconds, she experienced the purest happiness she had ever known. Then, Dr. Crane's expression changed. He moved the ultrasound wand slowly across her stomach, taking measurements, clicking through various readings on the screen. His frown deepened with each passing moment. The silence stretched uncomfortably, filled only by the soft sounds of the equipment and the rhythm of Vivian's increasingly rapid heartbeat. Is something wrong? Are they healthy? Dr. Crane didn't answer her. Instead, he turned to Marcus with an expression of grave concern that made Vivian's blood run cold. "Marcus, might I have a word with you privately? Whatever you need to say, you can say in front of Vivian. She's going to be my wife." The pause was theatrical, weighted with manufactured reluctance. "Very well. The genetic markers I'm seeing here, combined with certain factors in Miss Castellan's medical history, present some serious concerns." "What factors? What are you talking about?" "There are indicators suggesting a hereditary condition that could significantly impact the children's development and quality of life. Dr. Crane spoke slowly, letting each word land with devastating precision. Additionally, the screening reveals some anomalies I've seen before in cases of, well, there's no delicate way to say this, in cases where the genetic material suggests potential incompatibilities with the presumed father. The room went absolutely silent. Vivian's mind refused to process the implication. Incompatibilities with the presumed father. Those words hung in the air like poison, seeping into every corner of the room. What are you saying? I'm saying that before you proceed with this marriage, there are questions that need answers. Questions about paternity. Questions about hereditary risks. Questions a man of your position and family legacy cannot afford to ignore. Marcus's face had transformed into something Vivian had never seen before. The warmth was gone, replaced by cold calculation. The love in his eyes had been replaced by suspicion. The man who'd promised to spend his life trying to deserve her was looking at her like she was a stranger. Worse than a stranger, like she was an enemy. You're suggesting these children might not be mine? I'm suggesting the possibility cannot be ruled out based on what I'm seeing. The genetic markers, the timing. Marcus, I've known your family for 30 years. I watched you grow up. It's my duty to protect you from making decisions you'll regret. Vivian felt like she was drowning in her own examination room, unable to breathe, unable to move, unable to process how her moment of joy had become this nightmare. This is insane. Marcus, I've never been with anyone else. You know that. We've been together every day for 18 months. These are your children. But Marcus wasn't looking at her. He was staring at Dr. Crane with an expression of growing horror, as if seeing his carefully constructed future crumbling before his eyes. There's more. Dr. Crane's voice dropped to something almost sympathetic. The hereditary condition I mentioned. It's progressive. These children, if they survive to term, could face significant developmental challenges, medical expenses that would be astronomical, a lifetime of care and intervention. The Aldridge name associated with, well, with imperfection. Vivian watched Marcus absorb these words. She watched the calculations happening behind his eyes, the same calculations he used in boardrooms when evaluating investments and acquisitions. He was weighing costs and benefits. He was assessing risk and reward. He was looking at her and the babies growing inside her and seeing liabilities rather than love. Marcus, she whispered his name like a prayer. You can't possibly believe this. We can get a second opinion. We can do proper testing. This doesn't make any sense. I think. Marcus's voice was steady and clinical, like he was presenting information at a board meeting rather than destroying their future. We need to postpone the wedding until we have answers. Postpone? I need time to process this. Time to process whether you believe the woman you claim to love or whether you believe I've been lying to you for our entire relationship. I didn't say that. You implied it. He implied it. And you're standing there calculating instead of defending me. Dr. Crane, please have the full reports sent to my office. Marcus, please. Vivian's voice cracked on the words. These are your babies. Our babies. You're going to abandon us because of one doctor's opinion? Marcus straightened his jacket, adjusted his cuffs, transformed back into the CEO who walked through boardrooms instead of the man who'd walked through rainstorms for her. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm asking for clarification before we move forward. You're walking away. I'm being responsible. You're being a coward. The word hung between them like a slap. Marcus's expression hardened further, any remaining vulnerability locking itself away behind walls she'd never be able to breach. I'll have someone reach out about logistics. Logistics. That's what we are now. A logistics problem to be managed. Goodbye, Vivian. He walked out without looking back. He didn't kiss her forehead. He didn't promise to figure it out together. He didn't ask how she was feeling or whether she needed anything or whether she would be okay getting home. He just left, and the sound of the door closing behind him was the sound of Vivian's entire world collapsing. She sat alone in that examination room for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. The ultrasound image was still frozen on the screen, 2 heartbeats flickering with life that had just been rejected by their own father before they'd even been born. Dr. Crane began packing up his equipment with infuriating calm, like he hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of her life. It's better you know now. He said it almost kindly, which made it worse. Men like Marcus Aldridge don't marry women who come with complications. It's simply not how that world works. Through her tears, through the shock and the grief and the disbelief, Vivian saw something in his expression that she would remember later. Something triumphant, something satisfied. a flicker of victory that had no place on the face of a doctor delivering devastating medical news. But she was too shattered to pursue that thought, too broken to fight, too devastated to do anything but gather her things and walk out of that hospital into a world where everything she'd believed in had just been revealed as illusion. Can you imagine? The man who promised to love her forever just walked away. From her, from his unborn children, based on nothing but one doctor's word. If this story is already making your blood boil, drop a comment below telling me what you think of Marcus. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because what happens next is going to shock you. The penthouse felt different when Vivian returned to it. Same furniture, same view, same expensive artwork carefully selected to project the right image. But everything had shifted somehow, like the walls were leaning slightly inward, like the air had become harder to breathe. She waited for Marcus to come home and explain that he'd made a mistake, that he'd overreacted, that he loved her and trusted her and wanted to work through this together. She sat on the couch they'd bought together, in the living room where they'd planned their wedding, and she waited. He didn't come home that night, or the next, or the next. On the third day, the lawyers arrived. There were two of them, both men, both wearing suits that probably cost more than Vivian's old apartment's annual rent. They carried briefcases and expressions of practice neutrality, like delivering devastating news was simply another item on their daily agenda. Miss Castellan, we represent Mr. Aldridge in matters pertaining to the dissolution of your engagement and residential arrangement. Dissolution. Mr. Aldridge has prepared a settlement offer that he believes is generous given the circumstances. In exchange for your signature on certain documents and your immediate departure from these premises, he is prepared to provide a sum of $200,000. $200,000. The price of 18 months of love. The going rate for twin babies you never wanted to know about. The documents are quite straightforward. Confidentiality provisions to protect Mr. Aldridge's privacy. Non-disparagement clauses to prevent any harmful public statements. A full waiver of any future claims against Mr. Aldridge or his family. And of course, acknowledgement that the engagement ring remains property of the Aldridge estate. Vivian took the papers and read through them with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. Each clause was another blade, another reminder that she had been reduced to a problem to be managed, a transaction to be concluded, a loose end to be tied up with legal precision. Mr. Aldridge requests that you vacate the premises by Friday. That should provide adequate time for you to make alternative arrangements. She didn't sign anything. She didn't take their money. She didn't give them the satisfaction of watching her crumble in front of them. I need time to review these documents with my own counsel. Of course, we'll leave our contact information, but please understand that Mr. Aldridge's generous offer has an expiration date. After Friday, the terms become significantly less favorable. They left, and Vivian sat alone with papers that reduced her entire life to legal language and dollar signs. She thought about calling Petra. She thought about calling a lawyer. She thought about driving to Marcus's office and demanding an explanation, demanding he look her in the eyes and tell her he really believed she had cheated on him. Instead, she went to the bedroom and began to pack. She took only what had always been hers. The clothes she'd brought from her previous life, faded and worn, and nothing like the designer wardrobe Marcus had purchased. The photograph of her mother, taken on Vivian's 16th birthday, both of them laughing at something the camera couldn't capture. The leather notebook she'd been writing her dreams in since she was a teenager, filled with architectural sketches and personal thoughts, and now, she supposed, the beginning of a story about heartbreak. She left behind the expensive dresses, the jewelry, the shoes with red soles, the handbags with famous labels. She left behind the engagement ring on the kitchen counter, positioned where the morning light would catch it, where Marcus would see it if he ever came home. She could hear herself breathing, each inhale an effort, each exhale a small surrender. The closets felt like archaeological sites, layers of a life she tried to build over a foundation that had never been solid. The elevator ride down was endless. Vivian watched the numbers descend and thought about all the times she'd made this journey before. Going to work, going to class, going to meet Marcus for dinner. All those ordinary moments that had added up to a life that no longer existed. The doorman looked at her with confusion when she handed him her key. "Miss Castellan, is everything all right?" "It will be." She didn't believe it, but she needed to say it, needed to hear the words out loud, even if they felt like lies in her mouth. The cab took her to Petra's apartment, a modest two-bedroom in a neighborhood that felt like a different planet, from the world she'd just left. Petra opened the door, took one look at Vivian's face, and pulled her inside without asking questions. That night, sitting on Petra's couch with tea that went cold and untouched. Vivian told her everything. The hospital, the doctor, the accusations. Marcus walking out, the lawyers, the settlement offer, the packing, the leaving. Petra listened without interrupting, her expression cycling through shock and anger and something that looked terrifyingly like "I told you so," but was kind enough not to say it. "We're getting a second opinion." Petra said it like a command, not a suggestion. "Tomorrow, first thing. I don't care if I have to sell my car to pay for it. It won't change anything." Marcus already made up his mind. It might change everything. And even if it doesn't, you need to know the truth about what's happening inside your body. For yourself. For those babies. The second opinion came from Dr. Monica Reyes, an obstetrician whose office was warm and cluttered and felt like a place where actual healing happened. She had kind eyes and a gentle manner, and no visible connection to the Aldridge family or their carefully curated circle of influence. She examined Vivian thoroughly, ran comprehensive genetic testing, studied every scan and report with the attention of someone who genuinely cared about getting it right. "I've reviewed everything," she said finally, sitting across from Vivian with paperwork spread between them. "These babies are perfectly healthy. I don't know what your previous physician was looking at, but there are no hereditary conditions present, no developmental concerns, no anomalies of any kind. The twins are thriving." Vivian felt the words land, but couldn't quite process them. What about the paternity concerns? The incompatibilities? Dr. Reyes shook her head slowly. "There's no such thing as detecting paternity issues from an ultrasound or basic genetic screening. That's simply not how science works. Whoever told you that was either severely misinformed or deliberately lying." Deliberately lying. The truth hit Vivian like a physical blow, stealing the breath from her lungs and the strength from her legs. Dr. Crane had lied. Every concern he'd raised, every fear he'd planted, every word he'd spoken had been carefully constructed fiction designed to achieve a specific outcome. But why? That question haunted her for days. She and Petra sat in the small living room, talking through possibilities, mapping out connections, trying to understand what could motivate a physician to destroy someone's life with manufactured medical concerns. Who benefits? Petra kept coming back to this question. If you and Marcus don't get married, who wins? Vivian thought about the engagement parties, the society events, the people who'd looked at her with barely concealed contempt. She thought about Celeste Crane and her cold smile and her warning about embarrassing Marcus at important events. Celeste, Dr. Crane's daughter, the woman Marcus's family had always wanted him to marry. The conspiracy revealed itself in nauseating clarity. Dr. Crane had manufactured every concern, exploited Marcus's obsession with legacy and perfection, destroyed Vivian's future to clear the path for his own daughter. It had never been about medicine. It had never been about protecting Marcus from making a bad decision. It had always been about removing an obstacle so that Celeste could take her rightful place in the Aldridge empire. "You have to tell him," Petra said. "Marcus needs to know the truth." But Vivian shook her head, and in that refusal was a clarity that would define everything that came after. What would that accomplish? He believed Dr. Crane without question. He didn't defend me. He didn't demand proof. He didn't even ask me to explain. He just walked away. Because he was manipulated, he was given an excuse to do what was convenient. The manipulation exposed his character. It didn't create it. If he could throw me away that easily based on someone else's word, then he was never really mine to lose. The harder truth settled into Vivian's bones like a cold that would never fully thaw. Marcus hadn't been stolen from her by Dr. Crane's conspiracy. He'd simply been revealed. The man she'd loved had been a performance, a role he played when it suited him, a version of himself that vanished the moment loyalty became inconvenient. Dr. Crane didn't make Marcus abandon her. He simply gave Marcus permission to do what was convenient. The cruelty had always been there, waiting for an excuse. "So what are you going to do?" Vivian placed her hand on her stomach, on the 2 lives growing there, 2 children who would never know their father because their father had chosen to believe lies rather than trust love. "I'm going to finish my degree. I'm going to raise these babies. I'm going to build something that has nothing to do with Marcus Aldridge or his money or his world. And when he finds out the truth, when he realizes what he threw away, then he'll have to live with that knowledge. But I won't be waiting around for him to figure it out. I won't spend my life hoping he comes to his senses. I won't teach my children that their worth depends on being chosen by someone who should have chosen them from the beginning." Petra looked at her friend with something like wonder, watching a woman transform from heartbroken victim to determined survivor in the space of a single conversation. You're going to be okay. I'm going to be more than okay. I'm going to be extraordinary. And he's going to spend the rest of his life knowing what he threw away. It was a promise, spoken aloud in a tiny apartment while twins grew in her belly and her old life burned to ash behind her. A promise that would take years to fulfill, but that she would keep with every breath, every choice, every step forward into a future that Marcus Aldridge would never be part of. If Vivian's story is inspiring you right now, share this video with someone who needs to hear that their current struggle might be the foundation of their greatest triumph. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because you're about to see what happens when the woman he threw away becomes more powerful than he ever imagined. The rebuilding began immediately, even though nothing about it felt immediate. Change happened in small increments, in daily decisions that didn't seem significant until they accumulated into something that looked like a new life. Vivian went back to school. She attended classes in the morning and studied at night. Her textbooks spread across Petra's kitchen table, while her body changed in ways that made everything more difficult. The pregnancy was exhausting in ways she hadn't anticipated, draining energy she didn't have to spare, but she refused to let it stop her. The professors who'd known her before noticed the difference. She participated more actively in discussions, challenged assumptions with a confidence that hadn't been there before, produced work that exceeded anything she'd done previously. Whatever's happening in your personal life, one professor remarked after class, it seems to be making you a better architect. I'm learning what it means to build something from nothing. I guess that translates. She graduated 2 weeks before her due date, walking across the stage with her diploma while the twins kicked restlessly inside her. She was enormous by then, uncomfortable in every position, unable to sleep for more than a few hours at a time. But when her name was called and the applause surrounded her, she felt something shift in her understanding of herself. She had done this. Not Marcus's money, not his connections, not his world. Her own intelligence, her own determination, her own refusal to let heartbreak become an ending rather than a beginning. The job offer came from a small firm specializing in sustainable design, exactly the kind of work she'd always dreamed about. The salary was modest, barely enough to afford a tiny apartment of her own, but it was real work that aligned with her values, and it was hers. The birth happened on a December evening when snow fell softly outside the hospital window. Petra drove her there, held her hand through 18 hours of labor, watched as 2 lives emerged from Vivian's body and changed everything forever. Luna came first, screaming her outrage at the world, demanding attention from her very first breath. 6 minutes later, Theo arrived quietly, his eyes already observing everything around him with curiosity that seemed too advanced for a newborn. Vivian held them both against her chest and cried with a love so overwhelming it transformed everything she thought she knew about what mattered. These tiny humans had grown inside her during the worst months of her life. They had been with her through the betrayal and the heartbreak and the struggle to rebuild. They were proof that something beautiful could emerge from something terrible. She named them with tremendous care. Luna because she would light up the darkness. Theo because he carried the wisdom of old souls. 2 perfect miracles born from the ruins of betrayal. The first year was survival. There was no other word for it. Vivian existed in a permanent state of exhaustion, navigating 2 infants with opposite sleep schedules and endless needs while trying to maintain the job that kept them fed and housed. Petra appeared daily with prepared food and helping hands, never asking for anything in return. The women at Vivian's firm adjusted her schedule when they could, understanding without being told that she was doing this alone. Some nights Vivian sat in the rocking chair with a baby on each arm and wondered if she could actually do this, if she was strong enough, smart enough of anything to raise 2 children by herself while building a career from scratch. Then Luna would grab her finger with surprising strength, or Theo would make a sound that almost sounded like a laugh, and Vivian would remember why she was fighting. Why giving up had never been an option. Why every obstacle overcome was a victory against everyone who'd counted her out. The milestones accumulated like evidence of a life being constructed. First smiles, first steps, first words, "Mama," repeated in stereo by 2 tiny voices that made everything worthwhile. At work, Vivian discovered she had a gift for solving problems that seemed unsolvable. Her designs combined aesthetic beauty with practical sustainability in ways that made her superiors take notice. The first promotion came within a year. The second followed shortly after. By year 3, she was leading her own design team, overseeing projects that would shape the city's approach to affordable housing for decades. Her colleagues spoke about her with respect that bordered on admiration, and clients requested her specifically by name. By year 5, she left the firm to start her own company. It was a terrifying leap, financed by savings she'd accumulated through years of living well below her means. She rented a small office, hired 2 associates who believed in her vision, and began taking on projects that aligned with her belief that good design should be accessible to everyone, not just people who could afford luxury. The company grew faster than she'd dared to hope. Her approach to sustainable, affordable housing attracted attention from city planners and housing advocates, and eventually from investors who saw both the social impact and the financial potential. One project led to another, led to 3 more, led to a reputation that extended beyond the city and into national recognition. 7 years after leaving Marcus's penthouse with a single suitcase, Vivian Castellan had built a company valued at $60 million. She'd done it while raising 2 extraordinary children completely alone. She'd done it without asking Marcus for a single penny. She'd done it by channeling every ounce of pain into fuel, every rejection into motivation, every moment of doubt into determination. Luna grew into everything her name suggested, a fierce light that illuminated every room she entered. At 7 years old, she challenged everything and everyone, demanded explanations for every rule, protected her brother with a ferocity that made Vivian's heart ache with recognition. She was her mother's daughter in every way that mattered. Theo developed into a gentle soul, with an artistic eye that saw beauty everywhere. His paintings covered the walls of their small house, explosions of color that captured emotions too complex for words. He sensed things other people missed, understood feelings before they were spoken, moved through the world with a quiet grace that seemed borrowed from some older, wiser version of himself. They had a golden retriever named Biscuit, who slept at the foot of Luna's bed and followed Theo around the house like a devoted shadow. They had a kitchen where Sunday pancakes happened every week without exception, each child requesting their own special shape. They had bedtime stories about brave queens who didn't need rescuing and clever dragons who solved problems with wisdom rather than fire. They had everything they needed except a father, and remarkably, they didn't seem to notice the absence. One evening, Luna asked the question Vivian had been preparing for: "Why don't we have a dad like other kids?" Vivian sat with both children on the couch, choosing her words with the care she brought to every conversation that mattered. Some families have 2 parents, some have 1, some have grandparents or aunts and uncles. What makes a family isn't who's there, it's how much love there is. And we have more love than any family I know. Luna considered this with the seriousness she brought to every problem. So love is what counts. Not having all the pieces? Exactly. We might look different from other families, but we're not missing anything important. We're complete exactly as we are. Theo nodded quietly, accepting this explanation with the trust he gave his mother in all things. Luna, however, had a follow-up question. "I guess that's okay, but can we get a dog?" They got Biscuit the following week, and the question of their missing father seemed to settle itself, at least for the time being. Vivian knew more questions would come as they grew older, more complex conversations about their origins and the man who'd chosen not to be part of their lives. But for now, they were happy. They were loved. They were exactly what she'd promised them they would be: extraordinary. And somewhere in the city she'd left behind, Marcus Aldridge was about to discover what he'd thrown away. The man who would change everything walked into Vivian's life on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon during a fundraiser for the local elementary school that Luna and Theo attended. She almost didn't go. The day had been exhausting, filled with client meetings and construction delays and the endless small crises that came with running a company. But Luna had been talking about the fundraiser for weeks, excited about the bake sale and the silent auction and the chance to show her mother the art project displayed in the gymnasium. So Vivian put on a dress that wasn't designed for impressing investors, drove to the school, and walked into the gymnasium where parents milled around tables covered with student artwork and homemade cookies. She noticed him before she knew who he was. He stood near the basketball hoops, talking with a teenage girl who was clearly his daughter based on the way they interacted. Easy comfort, genuine laughter, the kind of relationship that couldn't be faked. He was tall, with broad shoulders and hands that looked like they knew how to build things. His clothes were simple: jeans, a button-down shirt, nothing that screamed wealth or status. His face was kind in a way that seemed natural rather than practiced, with laugh lines around eyes that crinkled when he smiled at something his daughter said. Vivian caught herself staring and looked away, embarrassed by her own interest. "Mommy." Luna appeared at her side, grabbing her hand with the urgency of a 7-year-old who had important things to share. "You have to come see my painting. It's the best one in the whole show. Everyone says so." Everyone? Well, Theo said so. And Mrs. Patterson said it showed excellent use of color. That means it's the best. Vivian let herself be dragged across the gymnasium, past tables of baked goods and clusters of chatting parents, until they reached a display of student artwork mounted on portable boards. Luna's painting was indeed impressive. A sunset over an ocean, rendered in bold strokes that captured movement and emotion in ways that seemed advanced for her age. But it was Theo's contribution that made Vivian's breath catch. A portrait of 3 figures, a woman and 2 children, holding hands in front of a house that looked remarkably like theirs. The woman in the painting was smiling, and even in the simplified style of a child's art, Vivian could see herself reflected back. "Do you like it?" Theo's voice was quiet, uncertain in a way that broke her heart. "I wanted to paint our family. It's beautiful, sweetheart. It's absolutely beautiful." She was still crouched beside her son, studying the painting, when a voice spoke from behind her. "That's remarkable work for someone his age. The composition, the emotional weight. He has real talent." Vivian turned and found herself face to face with the man she'd noticed earlier. Up close, his eyes were even kinder than she'd thought. Green, with flecks of gold that caught the fluorescent gymnasium lights. "Thank you. He gets the artistic eye from somewhere, but I'm not sure where. I can barely draw stick figures. I'm Dominic. Dominic Vale. My daughter Ruby goes to school here. Vivian Castellan. These 2 belong to me." Luna inserted herself into the conversation with characteristic boldness. "Are you a teacher?" "You look like a teacher." Dominic laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine. "Guilty as charged. I teach high school history over at Lincoln. Ruby's a sophomore there, which means I get to embarrass her professionally and personally." The teenage girl Vivian had noticed earlier appeared at Dominic's side, rolling her eyes with the practiced exasperation of adolescence. "Dad, please don't tell strangers about how you embarrass me. It's bad enough living it. Ruby, this is Vivian and her children Luna and Theo. I was just admiring Theo's painting." Ruby's expression softened as she looked at the artwork. "That's really good. Like, actually good, not just kid good. You should see if the art program at Lincoln has any summer workshops. They take talented younger students sometimes." The conversation continued easily, naturally, in a way that felt different from the social interactions Vivian had grown accustomed to in her professional life. No one was calculating what she could do for them. No one was assessing her net worth or her connections. They were just people, talking about art and children and the ordinary details of ordinary lives. By the time the fundraiser ended, Dominic had asked for her number. Not in a pushy way, not with expectations or pressure. Just a simple question delivered with a smile that suggested he'd be equally fine with yes or no. "I'd love to continue this conversation sometime, maybe over coffee, but only if you're interested. No pressure either way." Vivian found herself saying yes before she'd fully processed the decision. And as she drove home with 2 tired children in the back seat, she realized she was smiling for no particular reason. Their first date happened a week later, at a coffee shop that was deliberately casual. Vivian arrived prepared for awkwardness, for the uncomfortable process of getting to know a stranger, for the inevitable moment when she'd have to explain her complicated past. Instead, she found conversation that flowed like water finding its natural course. Dominic told her about losing his wife to cancer 5 years earlier, about raising Ruby alone through the grief, about finding purpose in teaching history to teenagers who mostly didn't want to learn it. There's something about that age. They're still figuring out who they are, what they believe, what kind of people they want to become. If I can help even one of them see that history isn't just dead facts but living stories that shape everything about their world, then I've done something worthwhile. He asked about her work, and when she explained her focus on sustainable, affordable housing, his interest was genuine. "So you build things that matter, things that help people who actually need help. That's incredible. I try. It's not always glamorous. There's a lot of paperwork and negotiations and dealing with bureaucracy. But when a family moves into a home that was designed with their actual needs in mind, when kids have bedrooms of their own for the first time, when someone tells me that their utility bills dropped by 60% because of the energy efficiency features, those moments make everything else worthwhile." They talked for 3 hours. Coffee became lunch, became more. Coffee became the realization that the afternoon had disappeared entirely. When Dominic walked her to her car, he didn't try to kiss her. He just smiled and said he'd had a wonderful time and asked if she'd like to do it again sometime. She would. She definitely would. The relationship developed slowly, carefully, with the patience of two people who understood that rushing could ruin something good. Dominic met Luna and Theo after a month of dating, in a casual context that felt natural rather than loaded with expectations. The children took to him immediately, which surprised Vivian more than it should have. Luna peppered him with questions about history, challenging his knowledge like she was testing a new toy. Theo showed him the paintings that covered his bedroom walls, quiet and watchful, waiting to see if this stranger would understand. Dominic understood. He asked Theo about the emotions he was trying to capture, about the techniques he used, about what inspired him to create, and Theo, who rarely opened up to adults outside their family, talked for 20 minutes straight. He's good with them, Petra observed after watching Dominic interact with the children at a birthday party. Like, genuinely good, not performing for your benefit. Actually good. I know, that scares you. It terrifies me. Because the last time you trusted someone with your heart, they shattered it into a million pieces. Vivian nodded, unable to deny the truth of what Petra saw. But this feels different, right? He feels different. He feels like the opposite of Marcus in every way that matters. He shows up. He's present. He doesn't check his phone when we're talking. He remembers things I mentioned weeks ago. He treats my children like actual human beings instead of accessories to my life. So what's the problem? The problem is that I thought Marcus was real too. I thought I knew who he was. I thought our love meant something, and I was completely wrong. Petra took her friend's hands and looked her directly in the eyes. You weren't wrong about love meaning something. You were wrong about Marcus being capable of giving it. Those are two different things. Just because one person failed you doesn't mean everyone will. The conversation stayed with Vivian for weeks. She watched Dominic with new attention, looking for cracks in his kindness, for signs of the calculation that had hidden behind Marcus's charm. She found nothing. Every day revealed more consistency, more genuine care, more evidence that this man was exactly who he appeared to be. Ruby became part of the equation too, a teenager navigating the complexities of adolescence who seemed genuinely happy that her father had found someone. She treated Luna and Theo like younger siblings, teaching them card games and letting them watch movies that Vivian probably should have vetoed, creating bonds that felt like family even before anyone used that word. 6 months into the relationship, Dominic stayed overnight for the first time. Vivian expected the intimacy to feel complicated. Instead, it felt like coming home. But afterward, lying in the darkness with his warmth beside her, unexpected guilt washed over her. "Hey!" Dominic's voice was soft. "You're tensing up. What's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything. I don't know. Tell me." She struggled to articulate feelings that didn't entirely make sense. "I feel guilty. Not about this, not about us, but about moving forward, about closing the door on the past, about making decisions that will affect my children without knowing if I'm making the right ones." Dominic was quiet for a moment. "You're allowed to be happy, Vivian. Whatever happened before, whoever hurt you, that doesn't mean you have to stay frozen forever. Moving forward isn't betraying your children. It's showing them that life continues, that love is possible even after loss, that their mother is human enough to need connection and brave enough to seek it. What if I'm making a mistake? What if you're not? What if this is exactly right? What if the universe is giving you something good, and you're the only thing standing in the way of receiving it?" She didn't have an answer, but she relaxed against him, let his arms wrap around her, and allowed herself to imagine a future that included this man. A year passed, then another. The relationship deepened into something that felt permanent, something that had survived the tests of time and challenge in ordinary life together. Dominic became a fixture in their home, building a treehouse in the backyard that the children treated as their personal kingdom, teaching them to identify constellations on clear nights, reading bedtime stories with different voices for every character. Luna asked him questions about history that he answered with patience and enthusiasm. Theo showed him paintings in progress, seeking feedback that Dominic provided with thoughtful attention. Ruby came for dinner most weekends, filling the table with teenage energy and dramatic stories about high school social dynamics. It was everything Vivian had wanted without knowing she wanted it. A family built from choice rather than obligation, a partnership grounded in mutual respect, a love that didn't require her to shrink herself to make room for someone else's ego. On Christmas Eve, 3 years after they'd met at that school fundraiser, Dominic proposed. The children were in the kitchen decorating sugar cookies, covering every available surface with frosting and sprinkles, while Biscuit waited hopefully for fallen treats. Ruby sat at the table with them, pretending to supervise while actually taking photos for her social media. Dominic stood up from his chair and walked to where Vivian was watching from the doorway. He took her hands in his, and she saw that he was nervous in a way she'd never witnessed before. "I have something to say, and I want to say it in front of everyone, because this affects everyone." He turned to face the children, addressing them directly. "Luna, Theo, Ruby, I love your mother more than I knew it was possible to love someone. And I love you, three, more than I expected to love anyone's children. I want us to be a real family. Not just people who spend time together, but a real family. Officially, permanently. If that's something you'd want too." Luna's eyes went wide. "Are you proposing?" "I'm asking permission first. From all of you." The children looked at each other, some unspoken communication passing between them. Luna, naturally, became their spokesperson. "We already feel like a family. You build us things and tell us stories, and you're here all the time anyway. Is that a yes?" "It's a we need to discuss it amongst ourselves." She grabbed Theo's hand and Ruby's arm, dragging them into a huddle in the corner of the kitchen. Whispered conversation ensued, serious and animated in equal measure. Vivian watched with her heart hammering, not sure whether to laugh or cry. Finally, the huddle broke. "We've decided," Luna announced with ceremonial gravity. "We think you should definitely marry Mommy. She smiles way more when you're here. And Theo wants you to keep teaching him about space. And Ruby says you're already basically married anyway, so you might as well make it official." Dominic turned to Vivian, his eyes bright with emotion. "So, what do you think?" "I think yes. I think absolutely yes." He pulled a ring from his pocket, simple and elegant, nothing like the extravagant diamond Marcus had given her. This ring was chosen with attention to who she actually was rather than what she was supposed to represent. It slid onto her finger like it had always belonged there. The children cheered. Biscuit barked at the excitement. Ruby captured the moment on her phone, already composing the post she'd share with friends. And Vivian kissed the man who'd loved her without needing to destroy her first, who'd chosen her without calculations or strategic thinking, who'd made her believe in genuine partnership again. The wedding was planned for summer, 6 months away. A simple beach ceremony with their blended family and close friends. Nothing elaborate, nothing performative, just two people making promises they intended to keep, surrounded by everyone who mattered. 3 weeks before the wedding, a letter arrived. Vivian recognized the handwriting on the envelope, though she hadn't seen it in 8 years. Elegant script that belonged to a world she'd left behind. Her name and address written in ink that probably cost more than most people's pens. She almost threw it away unopened, almost decided that whatever Marcus Aldridge had to say didn't matter anymore, couldn't touch the life she'd built. But curiosity won. Or maybe it was the need for closure she hadn't realized she was still seeking. The letter was 3 pages long, handwritten, nothing like the legal documents his lawyers had presented 8 years earlier. Marcus wrote about Dr. Crane's deathbed confession, about learning that every concern had been manufactured, every fear deliberately planted, every word carefully calculated to destroy their future. He wrote about his marriage to Celeste, 2 disastrous years that ended in expensive divorce. He wrote about the years since, spent understanding how thoroughly he'd failed. He wrote about seeing her photograph in a magazine, accepting an award for her work, about recognizing the children in the audience behind her, about counting years and doing math and understanding with devastating clarity that he'd thrown away not just a wife, but a family. He asked for nothing, made no demands, offered no excuses that sounded like justifications. He simply wanted her to know that he knew, that he understood what he'd done, that he'd spend the rest of his life regretting the man he'd been on the worst day of her life. Vivian read the letter twice. Then she folded it carefully, placed it in a box with other things she was saving for when the children were older, and went back to planning her wedding. She didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The architecture conference in Geneva was supposed to be purely professional. 4 days of presentations, networking, and discussions about the future of sustainable urban development. Vivian had been invited as a keynote speaker, recognition of the work her firm had accomplished transforming affordable housing design across 3 continents. She prepared her presentation carefully, practicing in hotel rooms and on plane rides, wanting to represent everything she'd built with the professionalism it deserved. The conference attracted leaders from around the world, people whose work she'd admired for years, people who now wanted to hear what she had to say. The reception hall on the first evening was filled with industry professionals in expensive suits, champagne glasses catching light from crystal chandeliers, conversations about sustainability and design and the future of cities. Vivian moved through the crowd with confidence that had taken years to develop, shaking hands and exchanging business cards and accepting compliments on work that spoke for itself. She didn't see him at first. The room was too crowded, too full of faces that blurred together after hours of networking. She was talking with a developer from Singapore about a potential collaboration when she felt something shift in the air around her. Some instinct made her turn toward the entrance. Marcus Aldridge stood in the doorway, scanning the crowd with an expression that suggested he was looking for someone specific. He was older than she remembered, thinner, with gray threading his temples and weariness carved into features that had once projected nothing but confidence. The expensive suit he wore couldn't hide the way he diminished somehow, like something essential had been drained from him over the years. His eyes found her across the room. For a moment, neither of them moved. 8 years collapsed into a single heartbeat. Every emotion she'd thought she'd processed came flooding back, not as pain but as memory, vivid and strange, like watching a movie of someone else's life. He walked toward her. She could have turned away, could have pretended not to see him, could have disappeared into the crowd. Instead, she stood her ground and waited. Vivian. Her name and his voice still had power, but not the power it once held. She felt the echo of old wounds without feeling wounded. Marcus, it's been a long time. You're the keynote speaker. I saw the program. I didn't realize it was you until I saw your photograph. Castellan, your maiden name. I went back to it after. She didn't finish the sentence. They both knew what after meant. You look. He paused, searching for words. You look extraordinary. Powerful. Like someone who conquered the world. I built something I'm proud of. The developer from Singapore had discreetly moved away, sensing the weight of the conversation. They stood in an island of tension amid the flowing crowd. I got your letter. Several months ago. I didn't expect a response. Good. Because I didn't have one. Marcus nodded, accepting this. His hands were clasped in front of him, a gesture that looked defensive rather than composed. I know about Dr. Crane. I know what he did. He told you? When he was dying. Wanted absolution, I suppose. Confessed everything. The lies about genetic conditions. The manufactured concerns about paternity. All of it designed to clear the path for Celeste. Vivian felt nothing at this revelation. She'd known the truth for 8 years. His late discovery changed nothing about what had happened. Did you marry her? For 2 years. It was exactly what you'd expect. A transaction between two people who wanted things from each other. She wanted the name and the money. I wanted the connections her family promised. Neither of us got what we actually needed. Which was something real. Something like what I threw away. The confession hung between them. Around them, the reception continued, people laughing and networking and living their lives without awareness of the drama unfolding in their midst. The children in that photograph, at your award ceremony. Marcus's voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. They're mine, aren't they? They were always mine. Vivian felt something harden in her chest. Not anger exactly. Something colder. More final. They were always mine. What? I carried them. I birthed them. I raised them. I was there for every fever, every nightmare, every first day of school, every scraped knee, every bedtime story. I built a life that gave them everything they needed. You weren't part of any of that. Biology doesn't make them yours. I didn't know they existed. You didn't want to know. You chose to believe lies rather than trust me. You walked out of that examination room and never looked back. You sent lawyers with settlement offers like I was a problem to be managed. That was your choice, Marcus. Dr. Crane gave you an excuse, but the choice was yours. I was manipulated. You were given permission to do what was convenient. Vivian's voice remained steady, each word landing with precision. Dr. Crane told you something terrible, and instead of demanding proof, instead of trusting the woman you claimed, to love you chose to believe the worst because it was easier than dealing with imperfection. That wasn't his fault. That was yours. Marcus absorbed the blow without defending himself. Something in his posture shifted, the last remnants of the confident CEO dissolving into something smaller, something broken. You're right. I know you're right. I've spent years knowing you're right. Then why are you here? Because I saw your name on the program and I couldn't stay away. Because I've been following your career for years, watching you become everything I knew you could be. Because those children in that photograph have my mother's eyes, and I've never heard their voices or known their names or seen them smile. Their names are Luna and Theo. They're 8 years old. Luna is fierce and protective and challenges everything. Theo is gentle and artistic and sees beauty everywhere. They are extraordinary human beings, and they have no idea you exist. The words hit Marcus like physical blows. She watched him absorb each one, watched the pain register and settle into his features. I want to meet them. I want to be part of their lives. No, Vivian, please, I'll do anything. Therapy, supervised visits, whatever you require. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to let me try to deserve them. You had your chance to deserve them. You forfeited it before they were born. She paused, gathering herself for what came next. I'm getting married next month. His name is Dominic. He's a high school teacher with a daughter who treats my children like siblings. He built them a treehouse. He reads them bedtime stories with different voices for every character. He shows up every single day without conditions or calculations. Marcus's face went pale. He's already their father in every way that matters. Not because of biology, because of choice, because of presence, because of the thousands of small moments that add up to actual parenting. You missed all of that. You can't get it back. You're going to let a stranger adopt my children? He's not a stranger to them. You are. And yes, he's going to adopt them, and they've asked him to, and I'm going to let it happen because they deserve a father who chose them rather than a biological contributor who threw them away. The words were harsh but true. Vivian felt no satisfaction in delivering them, only the clarity of speaking reality aloud. I have legal rights. You have biology. That's not the same thing. And if you try to use legal systems to force your way into their lives, I will fight you with everything I have. I will tell them exactly who you are and what you did. I will make sure they understand that you're not someone trying to be their father. You're someone trying to reclaim property you discarded. Is that really what you think of me? I think you're a man who measured my worth and found me lacking. I think you're a man who chose strategy over love and spent the years since learning what that cost you. I think you might have genuinely changed, or you might just be performing remorse because that's what this moment requires. I can't tell the difference, and I don't have the energy to find out. Marcus stood in silence, visibly crumbling in ways she'd never seen from him before. The controlled, calculating CEO had dissolved into a middle-aged man confronting the consequences of choices he could never undo. If they ever want to know you, Vivian's voice softened slightly. I won't stop them. When they're old enough to understand the full story, I'll tell them you exist and let them decide. But that choice belongs to them, not to you. You don't get to demand access to lives you abandoned. And if they never want to know me, then you'll have to live with that. The same way I had to live with raising them alone. The same way I had to live with being discarded by the man who promised to love me forever. We all live with the consequences of our choices, Marcus. These are yours. She turned to walk away, then paused, looking back over her shoulder. For what it's worth, I hope you find peace. I hope you build a life that means something. I hope you become the person you wish you'd been when it mattered. But I can't be part of your redemption story. My children can't be the prize you win to prove you've changed. You'll have to find another way to earn forgiveness from yourself. Vivian walked away without looking back, feeling lighter with every step. The wedding happened on a perfect July afternoon, on a beach where the waves provided music and the sunset painted the sky in colors no artist could replicate. Vivian walked across the sand in a simple white dress, barefoot because shoes seemed wrong for this moment. Dominic waited at the end of the aisle in a linen suit that matched the casual elegance of everything they'd built together. Luna stood beside her in a sundress the color of seafoam, holding flowers with ceremonial seriousness. Theo carried the rings on a pillow he'd decorated himself with paint and glitter, and more enthusiasm than skill. Ruby served as maid of honor, grown into a young woman who'd become family through choice rather than obligation. The guests were few. Petra, who'd sheltered Vivienne when she had nothing. Colleagues who'd become friends. Neighbors who'd watched the children grow. People who'd earned their place through years of genuine connection. The officiant spoke about love and commitment and the courage it takes to trust again after being broken. Vivienne listened with half her attention. The other half focused on the man standing in front of her, on the life stretching ahead of them, on the miracle of standing here after everything that had tried to destroy her. When she said, "I do," the words carried the weight of everything she'd survived. Every moment of doubt, every night of exhaustion, every choice that had led her away from what hurt toward what healed. Dominic's I do came with tears he didn't try to hide. He was a man secure enough to show emotion, strong enough to be vulnerable, brave enough to love someone who came with complications in history and 2 children who weren't biologically his. The kiss that sealed their marriage tasted like salt air and promise. The reception was simple: good food, close friends, dancing on grass while fairy lights sparkled overhead like earthbound stars. Dominic spun both children around until they collapsed laughing, their joy so pure it made Vivian's heart ache in the best possible way. Later, as the sun disappeared and the first real stars emerged, Dominic pulled her into a slow dance while the children ran around catching fireflies. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. Vivian thought about everything that had brought her here. The hospital room, where her world ended. The tiny apartment where she'd rebuilt herself. The long nights and early mornings of single motherhood. The slow climb from survival to success. The fear of trusting again. The courage to try anyway. Not one. Everything that hurt me led me here. I wouldn't change the path because I love where it ended. Even the parts that broke you? Especially those. They made me strong enough to recognize what I deserved. They taught me the difference between being chosen as a strategy and being chosen as a person. Without those broken parts, I might have spent my whole life accepting less than I was worth. The music swelled gently around them. In the distance, Luna was trying to teach Theo the proper technique for firefly catching, her instructions loud and bossy and exactly perfect. "I love you." Dominic said it like a statement of fact, like something as certain as gravity. "I love our complicated, beautiful, imperfect family. I love that you let me be part of it. I love you too. And I love that you made it so easy to let you in." They danced until the moon rose high enough to silver the waves. Then they gathered their exhausted children, loaded them into the car, and drove home to the life they'd built together. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived for Luna and Theo. Vivian recognized the handwriting immediately. She read it before deciding whether to share it. Marcus's stumbling attempt to explain himself, his apology for being absent, his hope that someday, when they were ready, they might want to know him. The letter contained no demands, no manipulation, no pressure. Just the words of a man who'd lost something irreplaceable and was trying to find a way to live with that loss. Vivian put the letter in a box with other things she was saving for when the children were older. Photographs, documents, the ultrasound image from the day that changed everything. Someday they would read it and decide for themselves whether they wanted him in their lives. That evening, tucking Theo into bed, her son asked a question that stopped her heart. "Mom, are we normal?" "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Some kids at school said we're not normal because we don't have a real dad. They said Dominic doesn't count because he's not our blood." Vivian sat on the edge of his bed, choosing her words with tremendous care. Normal doesn't exist the way people pretend it does. Some families look traditional and have no love inside them. Some families are built completely differently and overflow with more love than they can contain. What makes a family real isn't blood. It's choice. Choice? Dominic chose to love you. He didn't have to. There was no obligation, no requirement, no rule that said he had to care about 2 kids who weren't biologically his. He chose to build you a treehouse. He chose to read you stories. He chose to show up every single day. That choice is more real than any accident of biology. Luna appeared in the doorway, clearly having listened from the hallway. "So, we're chosen?" "You're the most chosen people I know. Every day, in every moment, the people who love you choose to be here. That's not something everyone gets. That's something extraordinary." Luna crossed the room and climbed onto the bed, inserting herself into the conversation with typical directness. "What about our other dad? The one who left before we were born?" Vivian had known this question would come eventually. She'd prepared various answers over the years, adjusting them as the children grew old enough to understand more complexity. He exists, somewhere out there in the world. And someday, when you're older, if you want to know more about him, I'll tell you everything. But what you need to understand right now is this. He made a choice too. He chose to leave. He chose not to be here. And that choice was about him, not about you. There's nothing wrong with either of you. He just wasn't able to be what you needed. But why? Luna's voice was smaller than usual. Why would someone choose to leave their babies? Sometimes people are too broken to see what's right in front of them. Sometimes they're too scared. Sometimes they make decisions they spend the rest of their lives regretting. I don't know exactly what happened in his heart, but I know it had nothing to do with your worth or your value. You're both perfect exactly as you are." Theo reached for her hand. "Are you sad that he left?" "I was sad for a long time. But then I built a life that made me happy. I had you two, which made me happier than anything else in the world. And then I found Dominic, who makes all of us happier. The sad parts led to the happy parts. That's how life works sometimes." The children absorbed this in silence. Then Luna, with the resilience of someone who'd been loved thoroughly her entire life, nodded decisively. "Okay, I guess that makes sense. Can we have pancakes tomorrow? It's Sunday. Definitely pancakes. What shape do you want?" "A dragon." Obviously. The conversation shifted to breakfast plans, the heavy moment passing as quickly as it had come. But something had settled between them, an understanding, a foundation that would hold when harder conversations came later. After the children finally slept, Vivian sat on the porch with Dominic, watching stars appear one by one against the darkening sky. "The letter from Marcus," Dominic said quietly. "Are you okay?" "Better than okay. Do you want to talk about it?" He thinks knowing the truth about Dr. Crane's manipulation somehow changes things. But it doesn't matter why he believed those lies. What matters is that he chose to believe them. What matters is that when given an excuse to walk away, he took it without looking back. And now he wants back in. He wants something he threw away. Whether that's genuine love for children he's never met or just guilt he can't live with, I don't know. But either way, it's not my problem to solve. The children asked about him tonight? They will again. And eventually, when they're old enough, they'll read his letter and decide for themselves. I won't poison them against him, but I won't force them to accept him either. It has to be their choice. Dominic pulled her close, his warmth a comfort against the cooling night air. "You're an incredible mother. I'm a mother who made a lot of mistakes and figured things out as I went along. That's all any of us can do." They sat in companionable silence, watching the stars multiply overhead, listening to the sounds of their sleeping household. The dogs snoring in the children's room, the house settling into nighttime stillness, the distant rhythm of waves against the shore. Everything Vivian had lost had led to everything she'd gained. The devastation had forced growth that comfort never could have produced. The abandonment had taught her self-reliance that dependence never could have built. The heartbreak had made room for a love that felt healthier, safer, more sustainable than anything she'd experienced before. Marcus Aldridge had believed a lie because it was convenient. He discarded a woman and 2 unborn children because imperfection frightened him. He'd chosen strategy over love, calculation over commitment, and would spend the rest of his life learning what that cost him. Vivian had believed in herself when no one else did. She'd built an empire while raising 2 extraordinary children. She'd found love with someone who saw her value immediately, who never needed to lose her to understand what she was worth. Some lessons can only be learned through loss. Some prices can only be paid in years of regret. Some people discover far too late that the things they threw away were the only things that ever truly mattered. Marcus learned that lesson in an empty penthouse, surrounded by success that meant nothing, keeping photographs of children he'd never know unless they chose to let him in. Vivian learned a different lesson, that being discarded by someone who couldn't see your worth isn't a tragedy. It's liberation. It's the universe removing what doesn't belong so that what does can finally find you. And liberation, she discovered, was worth infinitely more than any love built on being chosen second. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength, if it made you believe that the worst moments might be building the best version of you, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that like button to let me know this story resonated with you. Second, share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're more than their circumstances, someone who's been thrown away, someone who's struggling to rebuild, someone who needs to know that extraordinary futures can grow from devastating beginnings. And third, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because we tell stories like this every single week. Stories about love and betrayal. Stories about revenge and redemption. Stories about the incredible power of the human spirit to rise from ashes and build something beautiful. Comment below and tell me what you would have done if you were Vivian. Would you have told Marcus about the pregnancy? Would you have taken him back when you learned the truth about Dr. Crane? Would you have let him meet the children years later? I want to hear your thoughts. And remember this, if someone throws you away, if someone makes you feel like you're not enough, if someone chooses convenience over loving you, that's not your ending. That's your beginning. The best chapters of your story might be the ones you haven't written yet. Until next time, this is Mr. Brad reminding you that your worth isn't determined by those who fail to see it. Your value doesn't decrease because someone was too blind to recognize it. And your story doesn't end just because someone decided to stop reading. Keep building. Keep growing. Keep becoming the person you were always meant to be. I'll see you in the next one.